Hey everyone, and welcome back to Episode Club. Today we are going to be talking Season 3, Episode 8, Second Sons, and joining me today, as always, is my trusty companion and co-host on these podcast editions and live streams, Johnny B. Crazy, okay, Johnny B. Bailish.
Thank you, Sansa. I mean, Sasha. No, thank you so much for having me on. It's always a pleasure to do this. It's so fun going through these episodes and reliving these awesome moments that we all had together as fans. So can't wait to get into it. Second Sons, Dario/Francis. So we'll get into that.
Yeah, and it's really weird going back and watching these specific few last episodes of his character because they switch him in the Two Swords, which is coming up very quickly. So it's weird. But the beginning of this episode starts with Arya and the Hound, and they further develop their relationship. And the Hound basically says that he's taking her to the twins because of how she will basically be a ransom. And they were also talking about Sansa and how he was able to protect her, but they talk about kind of if she was with them, how maybe slightly different that would be as well. What did you think when you?
Yeah, I mean, you see right here, it's hilarious because she's going to try to kill him, and it gives her the opportunity. I feel like he wants to die in a sense, but not. He doesn't want to commit suicide, but it doesn't necessarily lack the will. Doesn't necessarily have the will to live.
Yeah.
But I think he was kind of judging Arya, thinking she wouldn't have the guts for it. But I mean, she could have did it. What stopped her, I don't know. More than likely, fear, right? She would be alone again. You know, this is a constant thing with her being alone and struggling with being alone. Finally, she embraces it later, but yeah, this is a good nod to that. And also, her getting so close to her brother and mother, you know, thinking that where did she think they were going? I can't remember.
They thought that the riverbank that she was looking at was black water, that they were headed back to King's Landing.
Yeah, where do you think I'm taking you, girl? You know, and he's just, you gotta love him, right?
Yeah.
You know, just stick with me, you know. Stop doing stuff that's stupid and maybe you'll make it. And some massive foreshadowing here as well. Great acting. This is the beginning of a fantastic relationship.
Yeah, like a buddy cop duo that's almost like one's too young to like, and it's like kind of full relationship. And shout out to Nancy T because Hound is her main man in this story. But yeah, this part is what really makes the back half of season 3 into most of season 4, in this relationship. And we'll actually be talking about it tomorrow, but the Hound and what happens during the Red Wedding and how he basically doesn't just ditch Arya at the twins, but he keeps her safe and protects her through that. So it's really awesome to see their budding relationship and how they're both sarcastic in their own way and sassy towards one another, but they never go too far on this. And they got to mention Sansa for all the Sansan fans out there. So.
Well, it's him trying to relate to her that he's not trying to do her any harm. She doesn't believe it, but you know, it's very poetic that he would save the two sisters. Maybe he will again. Perhaps not one person. Maybe he'll save both of them. So, and make it to the Red Fork. Damn phrase, man. Damn phrase.
Cracking phrase. So the next scene that we see is Dany, and she is learning about these men called the Second Sons, title of the episode, and how the Braavosi are in charge of the Second Sons. There's 2,000 armed and mounted men, and she has this line of men who fight for gold can't afford to lose to a girl. And she meets with them and they discuss peace terms. And yeah.
Well, I mean, she's kind of dressed like a Jedi or something, maybe a prophet roaming the desert. But she's seemingly taking stock here. Now, she shows smarts in this moment that baffle me because later on she makes decisions that are sometimes lack her thinking it out and with her emotions. But here she holds her emotions in well. I mean, she gives this full presentation to Miro, the Titan's bastard, and he is awful. I mean, you would think she would have him killed. There are other instances where she did not let that happen. But at this point, I think she knows she has to play her cards a little close to her vest. They've left Astapor, right? And now they're in Yunkai. She seemingly brought this wealth with her. She's able to give them things and try to bribe them. Of course, they won't be bribed. And Miro does make an interesting comment that perhaps we will save your life. And this goes back to maybe Dario comes back in season 8, like you think. But enough of my rambling.
Yeah, like when she meets with them, it's kind of a awkward sort of discussion, because he starts off by saying that basically there was a woman in a brothel that looked and dressed exactly like Danny, so he feels like he can kind of belittle her that way, and it's their actual leader of the Second Sons. And one of the telling things that he says is, "You will be all slaves after the battle um, unless I save you." So, there could be this thing of a last ditch effort that maybe Dario shows up with some sort of army, even though it's not actually Dario, but because he has that somewhat of allegiance with the Second Son still, because I believe she didn't take them to Westeros, she just left them under Dario's care as like the police of Marine. So maybe he gets news that Daenerys is going to marry Jon or something, and it's a last effort to try and win her back. Who knows? And they fight for me, and that the Second Sons don't ever break a contract. So there could be a thing of Dany needs more men, and Dara shows up because he swore allegiance to her at the end, in the middle of this episode, and continues to swear allegiance to her in the future. My other question is, how is she able to afford and so much, but have no actual real monetary value? I know she had the ships, and she probably robbed Astapor dry and left Astapor pretty dry. But to have this lavish tent with them and all of this other things, unless it's just provided to her by
No, I mean she took the whole city. It's a rich city, but they didn't really touch on it, so she just comes with this out of nowhere. Cinematically, they kind of have to do this to push it along, or else she'll just have a bunch of tedious things going. They could have nodded at her possibly leaving someone there. They talk about it later, um, and I believe in the books, I can't remember who she left to rule. And I believe it's the Stormcrows instead of the Second Sons in the books too. That Dario is in. The Second Sons are a part of it, but I think they refuse as well to fight with her, but I believe that's in a different part of the book. Ugh. Anyways, she got her stuff basically from Astapor. They didn't really touch on it too much, but yeah.
Yeah. Well,
She
I
had a
guess.
lot of stuff. I mean, she seemingly had enough gold to. That's a lot of gold, but still. I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah, well,
But
because they kind of hint at it. Now that I remember, they kind of hint at it. Like she says, a fortnight. I had no army, so it's been about 14 days since she collected. Collected. Well, kind of. She collected the Unsullied, and she said a year ago I had no dragons. So she's moving up the ranks pretty fast. So who knows? I think yeah, like you're right. It is for TV. Like if this is sort of in the book or whatever, but like it's more fleshed out in terms of like how she treats them and stuff. But if they give us a mundane scene,
yeah, she's trying to swoon, and the look on her face is just she's trying to be innocent looking and beautiful, but all she doesn't have the dragons there, so she's trying not to be threatening. She knows at this point that men do have their pride.
mm-hmm.
She seems to lose that aspect later, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is something that Jaehaerys did. You don't have to show off your dragons for people to know that you have them. The veiled threat sometimes works more than the direct one.
Mm-hmm.
The direct one tends to get people angry.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it was a good scene. We see her thinking about some subterfuge later, but that never comes to pass.
And give it up for the heated debate of who is better, Dario 1.0 or Dario 2.0. Leave it in the comments. What do you think?
Hashtag Francis.
Yeah. It's I don't know. Like I guess because we can talk about it quickly. It's weird to watch 1.0 when we're so used to what 2.0 looks like, but I feel like 1.0 fits the character more in terms of the aesthetic based off of the books as well, right? Because in the book he had like blue hair and it was like long and all of this stuff, so it's like more accurate to the books.
Yeah, I just think they should have went with a similar looking person or same color hair at least. Maybe no beard, something. Either no beard, full beard. Either way, they just went completely and just said, "Screw it, we're gonna cast this guy. Who cares what he looks like? We're going with it."
Yeah, they could have done something, but I don't know. It's a little thing you're just like, damn it. At the same time, and if my
You're home, Gendry.
so yeah,
Fucking strong.
we see Gendry arrive with Mel to Dragonstone, which is technically an ancestral home of the Baratheons in a sense. And he meets with Uncle Stannis, and he also has some blood magic involved, and we can also later on. Um, but we also see Davos, and he's reading about Aegon and Visenya, which, funnily enough, you are doing some videos on that. So, we can talk about all the big chunk of Dragonstone stuff.
Yeah, so Gendry gets there. The main thing, Stannis looks at him and can see the DNA profile of him through his eyeballs. He's Robert and half baseborn bastard. He's just, I don't know. I thought that was an interesting line to put. He just has to look at his face and then he knows immediately who he is. I think they knew when they were going to get him. Maybe this is Stannis double checking. In the books, it's Edric Storm, which is Robert's bastard that is, I believe he's fostered on Dragonstone, if I'm not mistaken. No, he's at Storm's End, my bad. And then they send him to Dragonstone. But Gendry ends up taking this. We hear a bunch about the power of King's Blood and how Melisandre doesn't like to frighten the lamb before the slaughter. Now, you can argue that she frightened Shireen before that sacrifice, and maybe that's why it didn't work. Yes, it is awful, but that could be something to take an account to later. And Davos reading's just, it's fun. Him learning to read, knowing that Shireen's the one that taught him everything he knows at this point, which isn't a whole bunch, but he's reading a fantastic book, Unnatural Histories by Septon Barth. Um, so, yeah, he gets released. Do your duty. Stannis said duty. Just don't touch my girlfriend again. Don't try to kill my girlfriend.
Yeah, like the whole analogy of the blood with the lamb, it can be brought, like, it's most definitely a point of contention of it may not have worked with Shireen in the sense of what she wanted it to work with, but it could be just the sense of the blood magic happened. Because a lot of people question if the blood magic worked with, like, it failed with the whole Stannis winning, but it worked in a different way and brought Jon back. But now, because if we're dealing with, like, going back and rewatching what Beric said, Thoros said about Beric and about using the words that he knew to bring him back, who knows? It might be a twist on all these theories about that Shireen is the thing, it's the one that brought Jon back. Like, she gave her life so that someone else, another king, could rise.
Yeah, would that make Shireen a Nisa in a sense?
Potential.
Possibly.
Could do like a special edition on, like, the all the blood magic, um, and see if that, because that, we'd have to go into more, like, depth about it, but maybe she is Nisa in a sense. No. Um, yeah, and when Davos is reading this, it's probably they had to probably toe the line with him reading this to not make him sound like he is mentally challenged, because that's also a difficult, I guess, line that they had to draw in terms of acting authentically, but also not belittling people who have this issue in terms of reading, I guess. But also, in a sense, when he's reading this book, it's kind of like every Game of Thrones fan when they start either watching the show or reading the books, in terms of being able to pronounce all of these different names. Um, like, because even some of us now, we still don't know exactly the pronunciation of how it's presented, because if you listen to the audiobooks, Roy Trees says Cersei Lannister one way while the show says it another, and then us fans say it one way. So it's authentic, and it's also a slight little giggle that you get from this. But who knows? Maybe what Davos is reading may be valuable in the end game. Who knows? Because important things happen in books, as evident of the last season.
I remember I read in Unnatural Histories that if you take Melisandre by the ankles and slap her across White Viserion's face, that will kill him. That's all you gotta do. But they needed 1-1, so I mean, unfortunately, can't use her as a stick to hit the Night King in the face with. I'm such an idiot.
And the whole thing that Stannis goes with, murder or sacrifice, which is worse, and then Davos basically says it's the same thing. Um, it's like the one time that Stannis has ever been slightly grammatically corrected, in a sense, in terms of what a word means, which I found kind of funny. And then the whole what's one life of a bastard boy against a kingdom. Um, Jon is a bastard as of this moment, and so is Gendry. So, and also Mel did say, "You will make kings rise and fall." So,
Everything.
and one last thing that we can talk about this, because it's a huge chunk of scenes put together is that Stannis saw a great battle in the snow. Was that 510? Was that 609? Or was this an episode to happen in season 8? Who knows? What do you?
Maybe. It's hard to know what he saw, right? Even Melisandre sometimes gets it wrong, so very well could have seen the battle in the flames. Does he describe it more, and will it matter? I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll come back to Bran showing everything that Bran did, as far as being the three-eyed raven, and that'll be part of it.
Because it's kind of alluded to that it is like 609 because Mel says she saw Bolton Banner's fall, so that's what it's assumed to be 609/610. But if it's as epic as it's supposed to be, I wouldn't be surprised if it's season 8. But we're rambling on these funny scenes of Stannis, and I just bring up random points.
Just a note, this is one of the two tangible gods we see. You have the old gods and you have the red gods. The only two gods, let me do the quotations, gods that have some type of tangibility to them. And we'll see later. You only have to have eyes to see, which is just super more ironic coming from Melisandre. But yeah, we get to see Miro and Dario's Lady Dagger, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so Dario and the other men, I can never remember their names, talk about the Unsullied and discuss basically the pleasures of life. And through the process of probability, Dario is the one that's picked to infiltrate Daenerys and her camp in the middle of the night. And yeah.
Oh, you want to know the one guy's name? It's
Sure.
Prindal Nagazin.
Yes.
Nagazin? I don't know.
I didn't write it down. That's why I forget.
Dario and Miro are the Titans bested. This right here, we see the coins. Dario gets the Bossy coin. Dario's a faceless man this whole time. Bum, bum, bum. Let the tinfoil tumble. And let's make cast together. Yeah, I think, the broad Bossy does the deed because it is associated with the faceless man, and yeah, it's death. So I don't think it's any more than that, but if you haven't read the books, from here you're thinking he's going to probably kill her, right? Or at least try. But he does give this whole speech about what he fights for. Love and beauty and the bosoms on his knife hilt. So.
Mm-hmm. It's a quick scene with this, and it just shows of how important this character will be in the future. But you can expect, if you're mostly like a first time watcher, you think something's either gonna go really right in this situation or really wrong, especially of how he was looking at her when the first time they met. But yeah, it's funny watching these like seeds go down, especially in their scene later, and how they all have the coins and such. But the fact that he gets the Bravosi coin in the end is quite cool. Oh, can I? Here we go.
Look, it's Shay the funny whore.
Shay the funny whore. Okay. And so Sansa and her handmaidens had prepared for her wedding. Shay has to walk with Pod, and Tyrion discusses what will happen / has happened. Essentially, that she is still a prisoner no matter what, even though it's a different type of prison. And they get married. But we also have Cersei and Marjorie discuss what it's like to be sisters and the subsequent conversation that happens during that.
Well, I mean, everything here was tense and great. Loved the acting, and this whole stretch of scenes, especially in King's Landing this time, it was brilliant. Shae staring daggers through Tyrion, Sansa trying to be the epitome of the lady that she wants to be, and having that armor on the outside, you can really see it. In the books, you get that inner monologue, so you can relate a little more to what Sansa's going through. But Tyrion here, just a gentleman, not so much in the books. He was he wasn't as conflicted about it in the books, or so he thought until the time came. Now, here he's just a real gentleman, you know. He makes jokes, he tries to make her feel comfortable, and we get all the way to Cersei and Marjorie. I mean, Cersei just has to remind her about the rains. Now, in the books, it was just, I can't remember what Lannister it was in the books that mentioned the rains, but it was a nice way to add it into the show and have Cersei use it as a powerful moment, uh, as a not so veiled threat to Marjorie. Marjorie tries to get familiar with her. No, Marjorie gets told a little too familiar with Cersei, right? And, well, Cersei basically tells her, don't ever call me sister again, or I'll kill you. I'll strangle you. And a little nod to the Strangler. What happens to Joffrey? Maybe that's a little bit of foreshadowing. I think that was a good touch there. We also have her mentioning the rains. I think I already said, but she mentioned the rains, and it was another Lannister that mentioned it. But she used it so powerfully and did it so well. And it cuts to Joffrey. Oh, poor Sansa. Yeah, I'll give you away now. I mean, just, ooh, it makes your heart drop. Want to drop kick him in the face. Poor Jack Gleason. What a great job he did. I know. But right there, you could cut the tension with a knife. Everyone in there was just dead silent. There wasn't really a happy face going on. There were feigned smiles. It's a brilliant nod. And then Joffrey takes Tyrion's stool away. Um, just this whole awkward moment, and it kind of exacerbates what both of them are going through. And yeah, go ahead, ramble for days.
Yeah, this these sequences of scenes really shows it really kind of gives a spotlight to Sansa's character because it's her wedding, even though she's marrying technically the king's uncle, and yeah, Tyrion and Sansa's relationship really is evolving much faster. I know this may be like a thing of why would you like why would you want to change the ending, but I feel like the if they were to do this again, even though they are still technically married, to have another marriage scene would completely be like what, even though a lot of people want her to end up with Tyrion, I would be like, A, it's fine, but B, it kind of completely kind of takes away um, how her character was from literally season 4, episode 3, all the way until this point, like up until 707, where she completely goes through this vulnerable state to then being married again, to then killing her husband, to then growing and really solidifying herself as a woman who can have as much power as she wants without anybody behind her. If they do, if they have them together in the end, I feel like it would just be as like more of like a confidant situation. I could see them kind of like if the baby is to come to pass and both John and Danny do die, that they would raise that child together as like what's that movie called? it's like the like can't remember the movie, but it's like where they raise the child together, even if they don't have this whole romantic sort of relationship. And if they were to do the Beauty and the Beast element with her again, it'd probably be something like Sandor or someone else.
I am telling you, the more I think about it, the only person that I think that Sansa will actually see that may make her heart flutter is the Hound.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, think about it. He's the only one that's ever been a true knight, even though he isn't a knight.
Mm-hmm.
He is the only one that has stood by her side, tried to help her. You know, he couldn't step in and save her at risk of his own head being chopped off, but he did everything he could. And I could see the Sansa thing happening. Tyrion and Sansa, like she's gonna be really closed off to any type of relationship. She's not gonna be interested. It's gonna have to take something drastic. And even a forced relationship at this point, if you're talking about breaking the wheel, then you're not going to have a relationship just because it makes the kingdom better. If you're trying to reforge the kingdom into something new, you're going to try to abandon that whole situation. So
Mm-hmm.
I could see her as a single mother in the end, raising that baby almost. That would be crazy. I don't know. There's a few good possibilities that happen, but they may go the traditional route. It's fun to speculate.
Yeah, because I have been working on this for a while. It just never has come to fruition, but maybe I can do a podcast with you about it. And it's because I haven't really got all the information and would love to have a bounce off of it. But going in over, kind of taking the three queens that we have now essentially at the end of this situation, being Dany, Cersei, and Sansa, and going over them in kind of using their real life context, because I really do feel, especially after season 7, that Sansa's not going to be with anybody, and she's really going to amp up um, Elizabeth, uh, Elizabeth Tudor, Henry VIII's daughter, very much. There was rumors that she was married at one point, or had relations with, I can't remember anybody's name at this point, but that she remained Virgin Queen until her death, but she became queen, and then upon her death, she had no heirs, so she raised her cousin's uh, child into being the king. So Mary Queen of Scots' child, James, was then named King of England and Scotland. So if John Danny.
Targaryen land, this could be twins. This is how you could get the magical twin babies.
Mm-hmm.
You have a single Sansa, strong, independent, doesn't need a man, raises the children and raises the new heir or heirs to the kingdom, republic, whatever you want to call it. It's going to be something different and new. I know in the books for sure, and at least I hope in the show that they don't go back to this. Oh, you're going to get this house and this house because we won. It's going back to the 7th. I do feel like a lot of stuff's going to be so destroyed that they're going to have no choice but to remake it and start anew.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the one little thing about Marjorie and Cersei is she's like, we're gonna be sisters soon. And Cersei basically goes, bitch, no. Look. And it's really prevalent that Cersei brings up the Rains of Castamere and what happened to that house, because she goes the second, when a house climbs and reaches the second highest rung, they always want to reach the top. And it's kind of Cersei, in a sense, takes out the Tyrells like her father did with the Rains. So it'd be kind of funny, even though it's never happened. It would have been funny if there was a song about the Lannisters basically uprooting the Tyrells, and Cersei kind of getting the credit, even though it is a man's world. It would have been hilarious if they got, like, if the Lannisters got a second song. Um,
Well, I will say this. The foreshadowing's massive for the House Lannister to die off. Period.
mhm.
Even Tyrion, everyone may dine in. And you could see Tyrion being the sole person to hold on to it. Everyone wants Jaime to die, but if he is, well, he's not going to be head of the Kingsguard, but if he does, or is the Lord Commander, the 1000th Lord Commander, or whatever you want to call it, 999th of the Night's Watch, he has to give up his name. We don't have any children here, and I could see a scenario where Tyrion doesn't want to even have that name as well if he lives. But in the show, like he's having this real sentimental thing with his family, which I think is going to cause his ultimate death. And I think they're setting up Tyrion to die, but I'm having trouble with it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I could I could see that, or die by betrayal or something like that. Even though most people don't like it, and Sansa being married to Tyrion, it's kind of a you can kind of see what the full spectacle of a seven Light of the Seven marriage is like, because we got like the slight hint of it when Robb marries Talissa, but you don't see like the whole what kind of is majority of the Seven's wedding ceremony, even though we do get it in 402, The Lion and the Rose. But it's funny to watch her get married and such, um, and have that comedic elements, but it's also very sad at the same time. She's like, damn it. She's like, Sansa's going into another version of prison. Anywho, we see after this, Gendry gets seduced by Mel, and it's a scene where she's kind of like, you don't have to pay for anything, and you don't have to don't worry about it, because all of this is for you, and you can um, do what the Lord wants you to do, and everything will be fine. And she ends up taking some blood after having some fun with Gendry, and after uh, when Stannis comes in, the leeches are for Robb Stark, Balon Greyjoy, and Joffrey Baratheon. So, what about this funny scene?
I mean, she just talks about only having a tongue to taste and eyes to see, and basically reveling in her own lie that is the glamour, that is some poisons that are tasteless and odorless. There are lots of things hidden under the veil, and maybe this gives credence and some foreshadowing to who Melisandre really is and what she's all about. And we do see later in the series her kind of giving up faith. Now we got to wonder everything she's seen, and maybe this is her last ditch effort at faith, right? She seems to be grasping so hard. It's like she wants to die, but she wants to know God is real before she dies. The same way she asked John, "What did you see when you were there?" Nothing. This doesn't this helps her just because he came back. Now she's a fervent believer. I believe she's ready to die now. That's why she told Varys that. Maybe she saw it in the flames. I think she did, because in the books, that's the first thing she learned how to read in the flames, was people causing harm to her or harm befalling her. And we have the power in King's blood here, or just it was going to happen anyway, you know. But she was going to make a shadow baby or sacrifice him completely. It's hard to know. I think she's going to do a full sacrifice, though, a whole Shireen type thing. She was just trying to prove to Stannis that it was worth it. Um, Given Stannis did have some reservations, but I think it was Davos who is just Stannis's conscience, because I believe Stannis just knows he doesn't have much of a conscience, and he needs a person to be one for him. That's kind of the strength of Stannis, but he starts getting whispered in the ear by someone else, and his conscience gets thrown by the wayside here. Just beautiful. But yeah, blame Sir Davos, Gendry.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, when we were talking before this with Gendry, how it must feel to sleep with a woman who's 400 years old, or at this point maybe like 300 and what, 97, maybe 98, something like that. Because
Too damn old.
Because as of season 6, she's 400 years old. So yeah, too damn old, but with the glamour. So yeah, it's a funny thing. And yeah, the most funny part about this is the leeches that Stannis puts in the fire are technically out of order in terms of who dies, but Balon Greyjoy technically survives the War of the Five Kings, so it's kind of funny that he throws Balon Greyjoy, because everybody expected Balon Greyjoy to eventually die before Stannis dies, but that doesn't happen. And the Robb Stark's leech dies very quickly, aka Robb Stark next episode. But it's funny, and poor Davos, just like watching this poor kid get blood taken from him and all this stuff. It's like, like everybody's going crazy around me, kind of situation. And yes, I had to skip through because there is adult programming on here, and a lot of skin. So anyway, the next scene that we see after Stannis throws the leeches in the fire is Tyrion and Sansa at their wedding feast, and Olenna speaks now about the ever-evolving family tree, and Tywin makes a threat to Tyrion, basically saying to do his duty and that he must get Sansa into bed and give her a son. But and also Tyrion is very threatening of Joffrey in a sense, but doesn't get repercussions for it. And ultimately, they disperse for the bedding ceremony, which actually has no bedding. So my funny thoughts on this is Tyrion is getting as drunk as possible for this. He's filling up all the cups of wine to the brim, so he can potentially get away with all of this. Maybe because I can't remember their wedding in the books right at this point. But when he's so drunk, it's probably the actor's way and how they written it in the script to avoid what actually happens in the books in terms of the wedding night. And Olenna with the your father will be also Loras's grandson. Father, like when she goes and tries to figure out who and what means for the family trees, it's funny. It provides a moment of levity in this situation, and you know it's going to be very tense. And with Tyrion and Sansa during the bedding ceremony, it's done well enough in terms of how to avoid that situation, both probably from the actor's perspective, but also a storytelling perspective to show Peter Dinklage's character, aka Tyrion, in a right which is different from the books on this, because a lot of people either glance over this or they don't know that this is what actually happened in the books. What do you think?
It was a super fun scene in general. Like you said, I thought the whole thing was well done, and then you had the moments of darkness with Tywin here and Joffrey talking of just said, I'll just rape you. I mean, it doesn't even like hide it. It just straight up, whatever. I'll do what I want. I'm the king. Cersei basically stiff arms Loras's face. She don't want to hear nothing. Don't talk to me. Um, you have Olenna. Your your stepfather will be your brother-in-law, or your father, one of the two. That's for sure. Uh, and that's when Loras storms off. And it's not yeah, she's just trying to crack a joke and make everyone feel a little better about it. Honestly, she's not trying to make Loras mad. Loras is just mad at the whole situation completely. Uh, he's stuck marrying the Black Widow, basically. She's treacherous. She's feared. Her prowess is known, and Tyrion and his tiny cock got to get to work, right? That was just uh, I don't know if he could have said anything else to quell the moment in that situation other than what he said.
Yeah.
He just had to basically shame himself to the point where you could do nothing more to him other than physically abuse or kill him. And it was good, It's good. Kind of cut off Joffrey's penis and give him a wooden wiener. Oh, it's just, I don't know. It's funny. And then the one thing I would say here is when they get back and Tyrion's too drunk and, basically says, I won't do it until you give me permission. Sansa says, what if I never give you permission? And we know the old saying, never say never. And never is not brought up many times. I would say stick a pin in that, but that may be something. Now, I don't think they're going with it in season 8. They would have had to have tried to develop it somewhat in season 7, and they didn't.
No.
All it was, oh, Sansa's smart, John. I know, Tyrion. That's it.
And the whole thing of you know him better than any of us, like kind of thing. But that didn't like really mean anything. But yeah, from what like for what I remember too, like it's an uncomfortable scene done correctly, and there's probably something written that they wouldn't do like this whole extravagant thing, because if memory serves me correctly, at this point in 2019, uh, Sansa, aka Sophie Turner, is like 22. So probably when she was filming this, she was 16, 15, 16. So for Tyrion, aka Dinklage, who's probably now is what, early 40s, late 30s. So
I'm not sure.
trying to film this kind of scene probably for him was uncomfortable. Or HBO was like, no, we're not going to make the beloved Tyrion be marked in the eyes of the fans and the viewers, because from what I remember, he tries to sleep with her in this. So
Yeah, I mean, he kind of talks himself up in the books, if I'm not mistaken, to trying to do it, but then he can't. He just ends up passing out. Um, Here he's a little more subtle. He gets his wits about him in the books. He doesn't force it or anything. He feels like in the books he has to do his duty. This is something that is very commonplace in this world. So he was just getting as drunk as he could to try to freaking go through with this because he didn't want to. He loved Shay. Sansa was young, and even though she was young, it wasn't really a big deal because this is commonplace. It was more of his love for Shay and everything that happened to Sansa, all the trauma that she had been put through. And here, yeah, it's more of he's more straightforward and he's more of a gentleman in the show for sure.
yeah,
That's beyond a doubt.
and I guess
Long neck though.
long neck. And I guess because it's only like a 30-second scene, you can quickly talk about when Shay shows up and she sees that nothing had happened, and she kind of gives this a haha smile, because we do know in, what is it? Is it 310 or something like this? I don't think it's in Rains. I think it might be 310 or 401. When we see Shay and have a potential conversation with Tywin. So the fact that she knows that those two didn't get it on during their wedding and probably will never is something she maybe sneakily tells Tywin. And
Yeah, that could be a reason for Tywin just letting Tyrion fall by the wayside. Also, he let Tyrion let Sansa. He didn't control his woman in Tywin's eyes. He's a massive asshole. So yeah, that would make a lot of sense. I mean, but in the books, Tywin's trying to kill Tyrion all the time until he sends him to Big Hand, and then after he does his job, he doesn't really need him anymore. I mean, before that, he put him in the Vanguard, just like, in the show, he didn't get the fight. He got ran over by the clansmen, the mountain clans of the Vale. But in the books, he actually held fought by a riverbank, fought with the clansmen, killed a dude, stabbed a horse with his helm. He wasn't bad at it. He got pretty damn lucky, but he fought. He actually fought. Him and Bronn come up to him in the books. It's like he's like, where were you? I was fighting. You seem like you've done well enough to me. So I would have liked to have seen that, but they probably couldn't have pulled that off cinematically. That would have been a tough thing to pull off. Have him fighting on horseback, having a lot of yeah. I wish they'd have put it in the show, but no way they could have afforded it.
yeah, the budget in the early seasons was minuscule, I guess, pennies compared to what they have now. But yeah, it would have been really cool to see that. Maybe, like, as Justin Thomas says, when they redo this show in about 20 years, they may do that scene, or they may add that in to like change up Dinklage's character in a sense. But who knows? It may happen. I forgot how long the scene is.
Everything would be CGI one day, almost. I feel like.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of
Just voice acting.
how much slight nudity is in this episode, so gotta watch the timestamp. But go ahead.
Oh yeah, you can just leave it there if you want. We'll talk about Dario Naharis coming and declaring his love of Queen and Beauty. He declared Dany as Queen of Love and Beauty, right? Basically, she's his Lyanna. She does do this weird stand at attention thing and show off her body, which I found quite odd, but maybe for the first time in a long time, she had gotten aroused by something. Now, albeit the gifts were heads in a bag, this maybe shows a little bit toward Dany's mentality. But you also could say she was afraid and trying to show strength there by standing up like that and burying herself. That could be poetic as well. Did they really need that? No, but always needs some gratuitous nudity. HBO has their quotas to meet. But yeah, right here you just have Dario saying he'll fight for her till he dies. For her beauty, for her love. So season 8 Dario, not Francis, but maybe Dario 2.0.
Yeah. Also, the other early part of this scene is Missandei and Dany talking about all the languages that Missandei knows, which is 19 languages, and Missandei's kind of just like saying that basically Dothraki is very hard to learn if you are not a native speaker of Dothraki. And Dany gets offended about that. She's like, well, my husband told me that I was born to speak Dothraki. And she also talks about how she speaks High Valyrian.
Interesting. They do have to phrase criticism in a particular manner for her to not get offended by it.
Mm-hmm.
This grows exponentially throughout the seasons as well. No, I don't think she's going to be the ultimate evil person. But she has potential to do bad things. She already has, just like everyone in this show. Everyone's an asshole at some point. I mean, Jon killed Ollie. He could have just chopped off his hands and sent him north of the wall or something. I don't know. Still, it's a hard thing. I can't say that Dany's going to be this superhero, but I'm not going to say she's going to be the evil person either. She's a gray-ass character. She's super gray. She has faults, just like everyone. That's what makes her so relatable to me. That's why I like her character.
Mm-hmm. And it's kind of also bringing up the whole languages thing. It's kind of a weird thing when they mention it in season 7, how the prince that wasn't promised, that whole thing is gender neutral. Yes, it's to make the dumbed down audience understand what she's saying, but you would think if she's so good in Valyrian, High Valyrian, and that language, that she would kind of know that. But yes, it was dumbed down for the audience perspective. But yeah, it's kind of weird to see them have their first like disagreement on something, because they need the BFF, and it's funny to have their first disagreement be about languages. And
is that only book that the translation is that way? Did they change that for show?
I think it is gender neutral. I'm not sure. I'd have to look it up.
Yeah, I'd have to check that out. If anybody knows in the comments, let us know. I'll know by next podcast or next live stream, but it doesn't help now.
I know it doesn't help. I should have looked it up. Darn it. But they might have done that. But I feel like it is because of a lot of Valyrian terms, if I remember in my weird brain, that they are gender neutral most times. So who knows? But yeah, and then probably her getting out of the bath is to, I guess, start what would become in season 4 and so on and so forth, the sexual tension that builds up until I think episode 7 of season 4. It's a building of a sexual tension, and also that they kind of kept each other at eye level. It's kind of funny, and I think especially after this season, Emilia Clarke wrote in her contract that she didn't want any unnecessary nudity scenes for her character unless it made sense as a plot device to move her character forward. So that's why she has very limited nude scenes moving forward, is because
I guess limited is a relative term.
Yeah, limited, not that many. Compared to like season 1, when she was basically nude in almost every other scene that she had. It's a change. But yeah, the Dario and like his like slight or Francis, and his like thing of just dropping the heads and be like, hey, no, I'm the leader of the second son. Like it's funny how that happened, and it's just like you kind of figured. And he's like, we had differences about who you are and your beauty. It's flirtation at its finest, and she hasn't had somebody really probably flirt with her like that, like you said, in a while. It's funny. And the last scene, because we talked about the chase scene, is Sam and Gilly, and Sam become Sam the Slayer. So
yeah. Sam the Slayer. Don't accidentally get us some gratuitous sex scenes. Oh, you almost did it. Don't do it.
Well, it's cut off.
Holy smokes, she's trying. She is trying to get it done here. Oh
The
no,
internet hates me right now. Oh, here we
Sansa.
go.
Now, we're just north of the wall. I'm assuming close to, let's see, kind of close to the Night Fort. Is that where Sam, that's where Sam comes out in the books. No, no, not the Night Fort. It comes out at Queen's Crown. Oh, I didn't got conflated at this point. Either way, let's talk about this scene
Mm-hmm.
while I try to distinguish between show and books, which can be hard at some point. Sam Slayer, yes, we see the value of dragon glass in this, and also see that, you know, Sam is the mother in this situation. I think out of the seven gods, Sam is the mother, right? That's just a little joke. Don't go crazy on me in the comments. The three-eyed raven or Bran is watching, seeing this. Now, everyone says it's not all about baby Sam. Well, it's got to be at least 75% about baby Sam, because right here, the White Walker does not care. Just pushes Sam aside, even though Sam tries to kill him. The beautiful thing about this is all the ravens squawking and then the dead silence when the White Walker comes out. Um, you could hear a pin drop, and the suspense here was pretty cool. Now, did this white seem somewhat robotic? Yes, and maybe that ties into the hive mind later. I hope not, so to speak. But I think they are all connected to the Night King, and then maybe have some sort of individuality, but I don't believe so. Even if you read in the prologue, they all move together almost as one, and then uh, they seem to have. It's hard to tell in the books, but I could see how this works in the show. And then, you know, they took the show of him trying to save Gilly and putting the baby, uh, being really accentuated with the baby. So I think we're going to see something later with that. In the books, he kills one while running, I think, away from the Fist of the First Men. But here, I think it was done pretty well. How they shatter is pretty cool. They basically kind of melt into nothing in the books, but in the show, I think they went really well with it. And I do believe Sam killing the first White Walker, Sam's going to play a role in the end with killing the Night King somehow. He's already teammates with Bran, so that's all I'll say about it before I freaking ramble forever. Great episode.
Yeah, this is a great way to end this episode and kind of push us into high gear for the last two episodes of season 3. Um, Sam is awesome, and he really takes Gilly into his family, into his arms, and really like wants to protect her as much as possible. Because there was also the hints in the last couple of episodes of Gilly saying he doesn't have much time left, and us not really knowing or understanding what that meant. Until obviously this episode, where the white, one of the, I guess, 12 that we see, like one of the, what would have been the 12 that we see with the land beyond in.
Well, I mean, you could have an endless amount here at this point. 99 sons, depending how old they are. The oldest one's, what, maybe 30 if Craster was 60? Or no, they could be 30 easy.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even older,
Mm-hmm.
depending on how old Craster is. So, yeah, it's good. But there could be way more than 12. Now, with the
No, just
budget, will they show more than 12? I don't know. But yeah,
the lineup that was like about, I guess, the maybe the 12 most important, the 12 oldest, who knows.
maybe, well, that means there was 13, right? And it went
Mm-hmm.
down to 12. The Night King and his 12 disciples.
Or the 12 Cylons, depending on how you look at it. Um, and
I
Sam,
figured it out.
and Sam, when he like slays the white, is it's really a great scene, and it's well done from the CGI department in terms of how they do this. And this really has a call forward almost to when Sam and John have their last conversation, when John is basically letting Sam leave the Night's Watch. And Sam says, I don't want to basically see the eyes of Gilly and baby Sam when I fail them. So he doesn't want to see them die and him not have to survive without them. And you can really feel it, like, and it really developing in this moment where he's like, he wants to protect them as much as possible, and he would give up his life for them. So it's really poignant, and it's a really good scene. And like we said last time, it's the longest running relationship concurrently in this show that's romantic. So it's awesome to see another Gilly and Sam scene. And the baby's still not named, which we forgot to mention, is that she wanted to name the baby Mormont, John, Randall, and then I think it's in the next episode that she wants to name him Sam, but she wants to go through all of the other names and just skip over Sam until she picks little Sam.
Randall. Please don't name him Randall.
Yeah. And my thought when rewatching this, which is, I'll be quick on this, but it would have been hilarious if Gilly had named him John, and because John would have a son named John and a best friend named John, and that would have been a funny thing to go with, because people in the who make those weird fan videos could have made so this is John's kid now, as a adoptive kid. Who knows? Maybe that's a thing for the future. But yeah, this episode was really good. And do you want to give final thoughts and where we can find you next and all of that lovely stuff?
Sure. I think I really like this episode. All the banter was fantastic. We even got a little action with Sam. Lots of foreshadowing. Definitely with Arya and the Hound. Everything was just Cersei's gonna kill everyone in general. Everybody at that wedding's gonna die basically, except Tyrion, Sansa, and Cersei, right? That's pretty fun to think about. That's a lot of dead folks. It really takes me back. You kind of remember what endears you to Tyrion in the show. Overall, I would give this an 8.5. Don't have any good quip right now, but I do have a new series out called A Quickie of Ice and Fire that's going to be dropping every Sunday, probably around 1 p.m. Eastern, and it's going to be probably a 3 to 7 minute video on every single character in the Game of Thrones universe. So actually leave a comment on my videos about one of your favorite characters' moments. Perhaps it will make it into a video, and then I'll give you a shout out as well. Plus, I got many and more streams going on. Cat fight on my birthday. If you see this, Thursday, February 14th at 9 p.m. Eastern. Come check us out. Debate whether Cat is the best mother in Westeros or the worst mother. You decide. You'll help us in the chat, as well as we will fervently debate it on the panel. It should be a fun time. That's about it. Stay tuned for episode club to Wednesdays. All the exciting, dramatic, super fun favorite episodes will be there, and I'll be there as well. Thank you, Mackenzie, for having me on. It's been a blast.
Thank you very much, and I would give this episode 8.5, but 8.5 Dario, what's it called? Dario 1.0 looks like those weird smolder kind of looks that he tries to give Daenerys. And yes, you can find me here on my channel, where tomorrow aka February 13th, we are going to be going over Season 3, Episode 9, The Rains of Castamere, aka the Red Wedding episode, one of the most iconic episodes in Game of Thrones. And as Johnny said, we will be going over that episode, and by next week we'll be going over the most key episodes to do and the best episodes, more or less, to do as lives to engage the audience more and to have lovely people join us. And other than that, you can find me on Johnny's channel, and you can also find me and Johnny on Cylon Jones on Fridays, which should be Season 2, Episode 6, Home Part 1, if I remember serves me correctly. And other than that, we will see you all tomorrow. Bye, everyone.